All right. Good morning. Good morning. This is Dr. King. I am coming from 800 um on my heart today. And my camera is a little blurry, guys. I apologize if it is. I'm not sure what it kind of gets stale after a while if you don't do something kind of creative. So I'm trying to do creative things each week, so work with me. I'll get it figured out. Maybe not. I'll continue to keep doing different things. But I like this background because it gives you that nice, sky feel, kiddie feel, baby feel. And today we are talking about the babies, the kids. Any child below the collegiate level. Today's discussion is going to be about family engagement. And it is really sad that the concept of family engagement has taken to the year 2020 to come about. And I'll actually say 2019. But the point is, it took until the 21st century for family engagement, the concept of family engagement, to come about in the educational industry, because you think they would go hand in hand, correct? No. All right. So family engagement, what is it? Engagement is a theory or term or concept that about 2018, 2019, the point of family engagement is to have a out school and think about when you go to class and something's wrong, and the only time that your teachers and your parents, or if you are a parent, you communicate with your child's teacher is when something has gone wrong. They are skipping school, they're late to class, they're being disruptive in class, they're not passing, something's going on. Hardly ever does a teacher call you and say, Miss So and so or Mr. So and so, your child is a wonderful student. We don't get enough of that. We don't get enough of let's communicate between teacher and parent before something happens. We're not being proactive enough when it comes to education. We tend to be reactive. And the student and the parent and the student. So today we're going to discuss parent engagement from a parent's perspective. Family engagement from the parent perspective. Okay. So I've described to you, me, I always have my notes. So I've described to you what family engagement is. So let's discuss why it is important. Let's go in depth. I've talked about it a little bit. Let's go in depth. The problem that we are having, everybody wants to say, socioeconomic, factors in demographics, factor in those type of things, factor in when you start talking to the level of education that kids as a whole get, whether we're here in the United States or in other countries. We know the people with the most money get the best education. Elementary school in the country or on the planet. Your passion as an educator, a teacher, whatever you want to call yourself, determines what type of education your students get. I get it. If you're in a school in an area that's condemned with poverty, that the kids tend to have behavioral issues, and the kids tend to want to talk back, and they're not doing their work, and they're just not passing. I get that. I've dealt with the collegiate level version of that. But still, And so I believe in family engagement. I believe that there should be a bridge and a communication bridge. The parents of my students. You have to. You have to. It is imperative that you have a relationship with your students. And if you are a parent, it is imperative that you have a relationship with your child's teacher and your child education wise. As a student, it is imperative that you have a relationship and a good rapport with both your teachers and your parents. There's a meme going around right now where it says, we're just getting warmed up. If Johnny had 10 apples, but I've seen different versions of it where it has profanity in it and things like that. That's not funny, y'all. That's not funny, you guys. It's not. Because we shouldn't only have that type of relationship with our kids, and we should not have to yell at our children to get them to away. How many is left? You might as well understand that your child is no longer learning. They're now trying to please you so they don't get a whooping. Okay? We've got to do better. So from the parents aspect of family engagement, it bridges that communication with your child's teacher. That's the major important thing with family engagement, that there has to be a positive communication bridge with you as a parent and your child's teacher. Or you as, even if you are in college, there needs to be a positive rapport with you and your own professors. Okay? That communication has to be regular. Not just during parent-teacher conference, not just when something goes wrong, not if you're calling to say, your child's not going to be at school for whatever reason, but that parent-teacher communication needs to be regular. And so on the East Coast, family engagement has become a really big study. I think in the Baltimore school district and I think in New York school district, there are some professors and some school districts that have come together, and they are going out into the neighborhoods and the communities where are, just anywhere. It's kind of almost like our kids gone to the grocery store and seen anybody at any level of school that my child attended at the grocery store. Have you? Think about it. Have you ever seen your child's teacher or coach or somebody at the grocery store? I have. And I live in a small town. I live in a suburban city. And I don't think I have ever seen anything or anybody other than my child's classmates and their parents at the grocery store. I have never seen their teachers. What's the neighborhood like? Now, let's stop right here and let me make it very clear that what they are not doing is going into these neighborhoods trying to find a reason to call CPS or anything like that. That is not what family engagement is about. Family engagement is not about trying to find a reason to call CPS because you went to mom's house and mom's house wasn't clean. That is not what it is about. That is a whole different thing. That's not family engagement. That's something else. What family engagement does is brings the teachers into the community, and it shows them the living conditions of the neighborhood, not just that child's home. What does the neighborhood look like? What does the city look like? What does the community look like? How much investment are the people in the community doing, and resources being invested into the education of those kids that live there? So that went around to the neighborhood, especially of some of the students that they know had attendance issues the years before. Is there anything that we can do to help with that? What type of resources are you needing to allow us to help you ensure that your child comes to school? And if they didn't answer the door, they left information in little bags, goodie bags on the doors. And when the news, because it was a big thing, the news stations here, they followed them around and they knocked on some of the parents' doors, because once the parents realized that they were no longer there, they would open the door and the news would catch them and they would ask them, hey, what do y'all think this is about? And some of the parents were like, they're just trying to come around and, and find a reason to call CPS. And that is not, mom and dad, that's not what they're doing. We need to stop being so distrustful of each other. Our kids need us. Our kids need for us as parents and us as educators to be on the same page when it comes to them. So we've actually gone more than a millennia. Because remember, we're in the 21st century now, and I don't ever recall family engagement going on when I was coming up. And I know no one else does either, because this is a new concept. And to be honest, ask any educator that you know. Give that role. They never took a class that taught them how to engage with parents. That's one of the reasons why this family engagement concept is so big now, because even on I think it's Harvard that is doing this study, because yes, it is, because if you ever go to edX, the online MOOCs, which are the online classes, free online classes, Harvard is who's doing this major study on family engagement. And one of the things that one of the professors discussed is how, for those who are going to school to actually become educators, they are not taught. There is not a class that they take that teaches them how to engage with parents. So this is why family engagement has become such a big thing. So we have gone a millennia and 18 years. And someone has finally said, 18 years, someone has finally said, hey, we need to create a course where teachers learn how to engage with parents. That's where family engagement come from. Our kids deserve better, y'all. They deserve better than what we're giving them as parents and as educators. And I'm looking at it from both lenses, and I'm also a basketball coach, so I'm looking at it from three roles. Our kids deserve better. They deserve a positive relationship that they see with their parents and their teachers, just like they deserve to see a positive relationship at home with their parents. It all works together. So getting back to family engagement from the parents' perspective, the parents will come out to the neighborhood, they would knock on the doors, say, hey, what can I do to help you to make sure that, your daughter or your son is doing good in class? What are some things that I can do as a parent at home to help my son or my daughter? Because that's the ultimate goal. We want them to get educated and we want them to progress. And there, later on down the line, I'm going to do another presentation on how we truly need to understand how poverty affects the mind neurologically of a child. It affects, living in conditions of poverty literally affects the size of the brain of a child. And I'm going to have a whole nother presentation on that. I'm not going to go into that here, but just something that you need to be aware of, that when you're living in conditions of poverty, those conditions literally, physically, and neurologically affects a child's brain. It affects their ability to learn, comprehend, and retain information. Okay? So as a parent, you want to build that positive relationship with your child's teachers. And not just say, hey, if they act the fool in class, call me and let me know so I can go to the campus and beat their butt. No, that's not what I'm discussing. What I'm saying is build that regular relationship where I was that room mom. I was doing family engagement with my daughter's teachers before I even realized there was a concept with a title to it, with a name, a label. Ever since my daughter's been in pre-K, I have always developed a relationship and rapport with her teachers. We're all friends. The majority of us are all friends on Facebook to this day. And I wanted it to be positive. I wanted it to not just be, you're calling me if my daughter does something wrong, which she didn't. I'm blessed with a good child. I didn't want it to be, call me if my daughter is failing. I wanted it to be, what can I do to help you make your life as a teacher better to help my daughter learn? That's what I wanted my relationship to be with my daughter's teachers. And every year, I think the only years that I really didn't have that relationship, because there were 2 or 3 years off in there, like when she was in intermediate from the 5th to the 8th grade, there were only a couple of teachers during that time that I actually had a relationship with. And that's because those teachers chose not to have a relationship with the parents. It kind of goes both ways. As educators, we have to be open and willing to have positive relationships with the parents as well. And if you're a teacher that you don't want to have a relationship with your students' parents, that's a problem. If you're a parent that don't want to have a relationship, that does not want to have a relationship with your child's teachers, that is a problem. Because the only person that it affects is your child. Okay? So we want to see, this blurriness is driving me nuts, you guys. I apologize. It's really getting to me. But know that as a parent, other things that you also need to factor in is that the better the relationship that you have with your child's teachers, the better you're going to have a relationship with your child education wise, and you're going to see things like their grades improve. You're going to see things like their behavior improve if they have behavior issues. You're going to see their attendance improve because they're going to want to go to school. Kids, they mimic us. And if you are a parent that does not value getting up, going to school, and getting an education, your children are not either. If you are a teacher who has such a negative attitude towards teaching, and you're mad because you're not in the school with the money, and you don't have all the resources that those schools have, and all the access to the technology that those schools have, and you resent that, and now you're taking it out on me a value of education. I instilled in my daughter a value of education from what I do. I watched my mother. I grew to love, y'all, if I could just turn around and let you guys see the number of books that I have and just the things that I do. Anybody that knows me will know that I am a nerd, and I am okay with that. You can call me a geek, you can call me whatever you know, but what you cannot call me is stupid. You cannot call me unintelligent. You cannot call me ignorant. None of that. You will never be able to fix your mouth to label those 3 things in my direction, because I spend so much time educating myself, and I've educated myself by reading, researching, and going to school. Just because you go to school, unfortunately, we live in a country where education is not truly valued. And it's really weird when you hear other countries talk about us in a negative light, because you always hear the U.S. is the only country you can go to where they have so many options, but like the pandemic and stuff with other people, that ignorance pours forth because of lack of education. So as a parent, when we start talking about family engagement, when we start talking about the relationship with the teachers and how that affects the relationship with our children from an educational standpoint, we have to understand that there needs to be positive engagement. Stop yelling at your kids' teachers. Stop yelling at your kids' coaches. Stop yelling at your kid. Teachers, stop just calling parents when the child does something wrong. Students, stop doing wrong. There needs to be some positivity going around. I love to, I'm as an educator, I am, the feedback that I give my students, I try to make it as positive as possible. And there is one method they have that's called the sandwich method, where you sandwich negative feedback in between 2 positive pieces of bread. So the negative feedback is like the meat, the cheese, whatever, but the positives are the bread. So I always start off with a positive statement, And then I segue that into saying, but hey, we need to fix this. And then I end that on another positive statement, saying something good. Hey, you're doing very good in class, but let's figure out how we can work on your behavior, because as you see, your grades are wonderful and we want to keep you rising. Sandwich method. As teachers, we can do that with parents. As professors, we can do that with parents. As parents, we can do that with our children. As parents, we can do that with our kids, teachers, professors, whatever. Now, granted, at the collegiate level, it's hard to do, because at the collegiate level, they don't want to talk to parents. Your kid's 18, they're grown, blah, 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 whatever. That annoys me, because my 18-year-old daughter, who just graduated 2 months ago from whether live or posted from Zoom. And I also have a YouTube page, Dr. Bridget King, EDD. All my videos are posted there. They're the same videos posted in 2 different locations. But at the collegiate level, I wish that family engagement was a concept that was carried out, that was utilized, that was implemented, because especially incoming freshmen, sophomores, they still need that help. They're not truly adults yet. Age does not make you an adult. I know plenty immature and unprofessional 30 and 40-year-olds. Okay? So family engagement is very important from a parent's perspective, because you want that positive relationship with your child's teachers and your child's coaches if they're athletes or whatever, and you want but I was just as smart as my mom. But my daughter didn't graduate high school early, but guess what? She graduated high school in the top 2% of her class, and that was better than myself and my mother. So you see the positive progression. My mother had her master's by the time I was 12 years old. I had my doctorate by the time my daughter turned 16. And I expect my daughter to have her doctorate. The positive seeds, when you plant positivity, it grows wonderfully. If you plant negativity, it grows. Which one do you want? Which one do you want? Positive or negative? Because only one yields positive things. Only one yields good fruit. Okay? We reap what we sow. When you sow positivity, develop a positive rapport and relationship with that teacher. Okay? It works wonders. It works wonders. It works wonders. I know, from both a parent and an educator standpoint, it works wonders. As a basketball coach, I love when I have a positive relationship with my players' parents, because when something happens, or if I can see something, I already know that I can talk to that parent with a level mature head. It's not going to be a blow up. It's not going to be a shout fest. It's not going to be a pointing fingers. It's not going to be any of that. When you have a positive relationship with parents, as an educator, as a coach, whatever, mentor, whatever you want to call it, and I'm talking athletic coach, I'm an athletic coach. When you have a positive relationship as a teacher and a coach with that players and your students' parents, it is such a wonderful feeling, because you know that you can call that parent and discuss anything with them, be it positive or negative about that student, and they're not going to lose their cool. And the students will see that relationship that you have with their parents, and they will not be scared to come home and talk to mom or dad if something happened. I always told my daughter, don't ever let me find out something that happened at school through anybody other than you. It wasn't a threat. It was because as a parent, I don't want to be blindsided. I don't want a teacher calling me saying my daughter did this or did that. And I actually never had that happen. My daughter didn't have one issue go on in the whole entire 14 years from pre-K to her 12th grade year. No issues. Never went to the principal's office, was never suspended, never got in trouble, never had to go to the counselor, none of that. And that's because I tried as a parent to make sure that I built a positive relationship with her teachers and the administrators and everybody, principals and counselors and everybody at the school. Even the attendance clerk, I had a relationship with her. I was PTA president. I did everything. I was room mom. The school, I was chaperones. They go on field trips. I got to go on field trips because I was a chaperone. It is so much fun. You guys don't understand. It is so much fun to go through that journey of watching your kid grow up and get educated. It is a beautiful thing. So before I wrap this up, I have about a couple of minutes to go. Make sure that you build that relationship with your child's teachers. Please. It just can't get any better than that. And when the teachers see that you're trying as a parent, they're going to try as a teacher. It just happens. Positivity breeds and yields positivity. Okay? So that's the first. And that's, family engagement is a triangle. At the top, you have the students. One corner, you have the parents. One corner, you have the teachers. We addressed one of the tips today, the parents. Next week, we're going to be discussing personal and professional SWOT analyses. But after that, we're going to have another, I think that my next two presentations is going to be family engagement from the teacher's perspective and family engagement from the student's perspective. So just know that I'm going to cover all three. It's just next week, I want to discuss SWOT analysis because I'm trying to also catch the older students because they're going to discuss personal and professional SWOT analyses. I did a presentation on it this time last year, and I'm going to do another one this year. So I'm glad I got to speak with you guys on family engagement from a parent's perspective today. Next week, we're going to be discussing professional and personal SWOT analyses, and then the next 2 weeks after that, I think we're coming back to family engagement and discuss it from an educator's and the student's perspective. It's all coming in August and September. No, the other three tips of the pyramid of the triangle are coming. Okay, so have a great day. Love you all. See you next week. Enjoy life. Bye-bye.